Good day. I'm back again, and I'm back again with a heavy heart. And I just want you to think about this. It is very important that you think about this. Last night, I was on my way home from our church business meeting, and I heard on the news that there were Russian ships, I don't know how many, but it was ships with an S, more than one, on about 30 miles off the coast of Florida, and our American Navy ships, 3 or 4, were watching them or shadowing them, as they say. And it hit me I've always thought of this, but it hit me really as a strong possibility that with those ships there, the damage they could do before our ships would retaliate, and I'm sure our ships would retaliate if those ships fired or made some moves towards Florida. But what really brought it to my focus is that the military is based upon a chain of command, and they don't do anything without getting the orders from the officer above. And as we know, our president is the commander-in-chief. Now, what would it take for those Russian ships to fire on Florida, then our ships to retaliate, and then the message to go out to our commander-in-chief as to what do we do now that we have annihilated 3 or 4 Russian ships? What do we do with Russia, with Moscow? I believe that if they call the president, because it was about 7-something my time, so 3 hours there's probably 10-something in Washington or Delaware or wherever he is. So he's sound asleep, and waking him up in the middle of the night and saying, "Mr. President, we just sank 3 Russian ships. What do we do to respond to Moscow? What do we tell them? I don't believe he have the answers. I don't think he would really understand what they were talking about. I don't think he understands what they're talking about, even if he had been up all day. The reason I can say this because I went online day before yesterday and I watched a video online of the president at the Juneteenth celebration. And this is what really capped it off for me, because he's standing there in the middle of a lot of people prancing and dancing and clapping and enjoying the moment. And he's standing there in a daze. He doesn't know what's going on. And you can see the camera goes in for a close-up once, and you see his eyes shoot up to the left, and then his head slowly turns, and then he turns back the other way. And Floyd, the gentleman who was killed, George Floyd, his brother is standing beside him, and he tells him something and kind of nudges at him and probes him, and his hands come up by his side in the clap position, but they don't go together. He never claps, but his hands are just there in the clap position, and it looks to me like he knows he's supposed to clap, but his hands just won't cooperate. And then slowly, very slowly, I think it was his right hand, just slowly goes back down to his side. And then a few seconds later, his left hand goes up to scratch his nose, and it goes up there and he hits it a time or two, and then the hand just slowly slips off of his face, and he's standing there in this zombified position, just looking straight ahead, and then every now and then his head will turn from side to side. This is a man who have cognizant problems. Now, I I know a gentleman, and everybody talks about his age. Oh, he's old, he's 81. No, it's his mental capacity that is failing. Because I have a gentleman who shows up to church every Sunday morning early, who opens the church service and participates in the choir singing and so forth. And then he goes off to work. And he works selling coins, making deals, buying and selling and trading coins. He's 91. He's 91. I'm saying he's 91. He'll be 91 in July next month. He's 90. He'll be 91 next month. And he is driving everywhere again, buying and selling and making deals, and he opens our services every Sunday morning. So you see, it's not his age, it's his mental capacity. We're talking about a guy who just is not there. The lights is on, but there's nobody home. And I'm bringing this to your attention because I'm not a voice. Nobody even knows my name. 10 people might watch this video. But if you watch it, you got to stop and think. If you are considering voting for President Biden in this next election, seeing him the way he is today, then I have to say, and I'm going to be bold with this, because as calm as I'm talking, I would really like to be screaming that there is something wrong with America when this many people are talking about voting for a guy who's not capable of doing anything. The special counsel that they hired to investigate his wrongdoing sit down and interviewed with him and made a tape, the same as I'm doing now, made a videotape of him doing this interview. And he came back and said that the man couldn't remember. The man was slow in answering the questions. The man drifted off. The man is not able to stand court or go to jail because he's just an old man who can't remember a lot of things and can't respond quickly to the questions that are asked of him. Stumbles and stutters. Now, they refused to release that tape that you can see, but they released a transcript where they wrote down everything he said. But I'm saying that this is documentation, ladies and gentlemen. This man can do anything he chooses to do now, and you take him into any court of law, and what they're going to say is, I don't know why you're bringing this to us. It is documented that this man was this way. So you let him run the country knowing that he was this way, and now you want something done about the error of his ways? It won't work because it's been documented that he's incapable. And that's what we're dealing with. So he could kill you or me or anybody he chooses to, take him to court, and they would tell you straight to your face that he needs help. He needs to go to a facility, not prison, because he's incapable of standing court. It is documented. And we paid millions of dollars to get that documentation. But what do? We put him back out there and say, let's vote for him again next year. And half the country, in some areas, Donald Trump and Joe Biden is running neck and neck. So what that tells me is there are half of this country who is as crazy as a road lizard. And if you're one of them, I'm sorry to say it. And that's what I was coming up on. I'm sorry to say that if you watching this man do the things that he's doing, all of that falling and stumbling and stammering and staring and posing, and you're still going to vote for him, there is something terribly wrong with you. And there's something terribly wrong with our media. There's something terribly wrong with the Democratic establishment to let this continue on with people sitting there seeing with their own eyes what's going on in this man's world, and he's still being put forth to run a country as powerful as America. And they just captured 8 men from ISIS in Los Angeles, Philadelphia, and New York. And they said that one of them was communicating with somebody about a bomb. Had he planted a bomb? Was he going to plant a bomb? Or was the bomb already planted? Or was they getting the bomb in order to plant? So we got 8 terrorists here because our border's wide open. And as you know, he don't care nothing about that. He doesn't care if the border's open. He's not going to try to close it. But he's going to tell you, I've done all I can. He can close the border this minute. But again, we are in a dangerous position in this country today because we have a guy who is not capable of making the decisions that it would take to save this country if and when the enemy decides to strike. So we have Russian ships on the coast of Florida. So, if Joe Biden is elected president in 2024, I think we can just about give it up. So, I want you to think about that because we are in prayer. We are in dire straits. We are in need of somebody to come in and save the day. Now, I've always said, and I'll say again, evil will destroy itself just to destroy you. And what I'm visualizing is America sinking in quicksand. Donald Trump is standing on the bank with a rope. And half of the country's got their arms folded saying, I'd rather sink and die in this quicksand than to let him pull me out. Well, I'm one of the guys that's asking him to throw me the rope, Donald. Throw me the rope. So just think of where you are and where you'd like to be this time next year and what the possibilities are with who we have in charge. Borders open, prices up, and Russia's on the coast of Florida. So think about this. And again, I could scream, but I don't think it would do any good. So I'm trying to be as calm as I can, but inside I'm screaming. But I know one thing that keeps me grounded, and that is, if God be for us, who can be against us? And it doesn't matter what happens on this earth. Our home is in the kingdom of God. So if heaven is my home and I'm just passing through here, even though I hate to see it, I don't want to see this place destroyed. I'd like to live here a little while longer and continue my work. So God bless, but think about this.